My name is RJ LaValle, and this is the ShipKeeper's Log. He's helping us with decking on...
Now that we're done telling fictions. Well, what's going on now? Randy just helped put some sweet nails in, but he's still doing a couple. Getting those screw holes. Mike is busy working on his next seam in the decking. He's reefing right now. How's it going, Mike?
It's good, it's good.
All right.
Going great.
I don't believe you. Mary's digging out all the rotted wood that was in that galley hatch, and you can actually smell it, which is really bad. And there's Randy, who's finally getting the sweet nails in the galley hatch. So a lot of progress. So this morning, Greg C. not only came by to help us out doing the caulking in the deck seams, as you see here, but we also had him give us some tutorials on how to spin Oakum and what Oakum is all about, and some tutorials on actually caulking today.
My name is Greg C. I'm one of the shipwrights here at Mystic Seaport, and I'm helping out with some deck caulking on Amistad.
Awesome. How long have you been at Mystic?
I've been here about 7 years as of yesterday.
Wow. Wow, it's the anniversary.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here. Thanks for being part of the community.
It's my pleasure. I really love this vessel, and it's an honor to work on it. So this is our Oakum, and this is what's been used traditionally for caulking ships like this. And basically what it is hemp fibers that have been processed and strung out, and then it's impregnated with pine tar. And that combination of things makes this quite waterproof, as well as quite effective in keeping the ship from sinking. So the nice thing is, what we're caulking today is, depending on how that goes, the ship's not going to sink one way or the other. But we do want to keep that forecastle dry. So basically this gets processed, and we get it in these bales like this. And this is pretty rough for what we're trying to do. So what we want to do is spin it and make it into a more uniform kind of consistency that will make our caulking a lot more consistent and more effective. So what I like to do is I break off. For doing long lengths of things, I like to do like 3 arm lengths. For what we're doing, 2 is fine. It really doesn't matter. The bottom line is, you don't want a ton of little short sections. You want it to be continuous. You can thread it back together, but it's nice having something that is kind of, you can keep going with. So you can go ahead and take about 2 arm lengths off of that and pull it out. Any like this, kind of fine, and you'll find that, so this stuff sort of, part of it's why it's so effective is when you twist these fibers, it's super strong. So if you just try to pull it, if it's twisted, it's almost impossible. But so now where you're trying to break it, yeah, you can sort of tease those fibers out, and that'll help you get it to the point where it does. You can even, sometimes it's as simple as just giving it a twist, and go ahead and pull on that and see if that, yep, there we go. See, it's super easy when you get them in line, but really tough when they're twisted. And again, that's going to work to our advantage. You know, it's inconsistent, it's sort of matted, it's if you're doing a huge seam, you could probably use this as it is, but what we're trying to do is spin it to be more consistent. So I work with both hands. I'm righty, so that's why I use my right leg, and what we're trying to do is sort of banana this back and forth. And so that's the action on the right hand, and our left hand we're going to use to tease the fibers. We're going to be consistently sort of pulling this not apart, but we're thinning out the fat spots, if that makes sense. And so again, like I was saying, if you're pulling, you're trying to tease out one of these spots, and it's really hard to do, give it a half a twist, because when those fibers are in line, it's a lot easier and you can control it. It's remarkably easy to just do that as well and break it apart, and then it's not a huge deal, but basically you're trying to get this consistent.
Okay, so you just
over
pulled
here.
them about an inch apart.
So yeah,
without
and it
breaking
depends on what I'm finding, you know. So I go back and forth with my right hand 1 or 2 times. I pull it apart a little bit, and I go back with that right hand. And you just keep working your way down, trying to keep it at a consistent sort of diameter, I guess you'd say. And that's the more consistent you can get it, the easier the caulking will be. And so you can kind of get a feel for how the finished product looks compared to what you're working with here. And this isn't perfect, but for what we're doing, it doesn't have to be perfect. If we were doing more of these standard deck seams, we might even split this Oakum in half so we get thinner strands, because these seams on the deck planking is a lot tighter than the seams up forward where we're actually going to be caulking it. And what I like to do, different people have different ways to pull it apart. You can use just one hand in the other and tease. I sort of anchor my right hand on my leg, and I use my left leg as my sort of power. So I'll hold my left hand on that, and I'll actually pull it with my leg, because that's a lot stronger than this action, and I can control it a lot easier. Because if I'm just pulling with my hand, it's a lot easier for me to just rip it apart. So me personally, I like to sort of use my leg to really do the pulling. Most people or a lot of folks can just kind of pull it with both hands, and that's fine. You just kind of, there's sort of the guidelines and the ultimate product, and then however you get there is fine. You know, everyone's got a slightly different style. But again, what we're looking for is consistent product and not a bunch of small pieces. If you find some Oakum you get is cleaner than others, this stuff's not bad, but when you do find clumps, or if there's like stems in there and things like that, you can pick those out. If we were in the shop, we'd give the floor a sweep before we do this, because it is draped on the sole here. So you want to make sure you're not dragging this through a bunch of sawdust or dirt, things like that. We want to keep it as clean as we can, and that will make, again, a more effective and watertight caulking. Does any of that make any sense?
Yeah, now you're not like always turning it in one direction. You just go
Back and forth. And what the nice thing with that is, if you go up and back the same amount, I sort of hold on with my other hand, and that way I know that what I'm coming back to is where I started, and so I can tell kind of which way I need to twist on the left side in order to get those fibers to align. And that helps a lot, because again, that's the secret to being able to open it up, you know, consistently without tearing it apart. So I find that, yeah, if you go back and forth, and it's a little bit of a sort of banana action, helps too. If you find that it's sliding a lot, then your saliva is your friend, and you just give it a little bit of spit, and that'll give you some friction to help roll it so it's not sliding on you. You just kind of get a feel for how you're going to tease those fibers apart, and that's the real key to getting it consistent. And
Yeah, that's the tough part.
yeah, it's definitely tough. And I think there's
All right, so Greg, why do you have to be that fastidious with getting out everything out of that seam?
well, there's a lot of unpleasantness going on in here, and what this is going to lead to is this stuff will trap the moisture, and it'll mean your cotton's going to rot out sooner, and also it won't have as tight a seal in that seam, and so it won't be as effective at keeping the water out. So really, keeping that as clean as you can is going to pay dividends for all the work you put into, and the unpleasant smell that you find in all that. There's even, well, that's old cotton. There might be a little bit of frozen stuff up forward there.
Okay.
But this will be good enough for what we're trying to do. But yeah, you really want to get it as clean as you can. Both, it'll make it easier so it's more consistent. You're not getting lumps down in there, and it also will help your caulking last longer. So
when it comes to the caulking, whether it's on the deck or on the hull planking, why do we as boat makers or boat builders not just butt the seams together? What does the caulking accomplish? Particularly with the I showed folks the caulking seam, how we have that. What is
sure.
how does that all work mechanically?
Well, basically, nothing here is square and flat. So you can make things as tight as you think they can be, but that wood is still a living organism, and that moves and changes over time. And the whole ship is constantly getting worked and flexing in the sea, as well, because of the movement of the ship, but also the weather. And so those planks are tightening up, they're expanding and contracting, and so a tight fit when you build it isn't going to be a tight fit 6 months from then or 2 years from then. So what the caulking does is it gives us a flexible material that can fill those voids and actually not only create a watertight barrier, but it pushes those planks apart from each other, which in tune pushes them tighter against the planking around them. So what you're effectively doing is adding structure to the ship when you caulk it, especially like the hull of the ship. When you caulk that as tight and as perfectly planked as it may be, it will be a lot stronger after it's caulked, because that's pushing those planks against each other, and I like to think of it as like you're tuning the ship, and that really is what it makes it watertight, but it also lends a lot of structure to the ship.
Very cool. Now, so why is a caulking bevel cut the way it is in that angle?
With the caulking bevel, you have the inside, the inboard face of the planks are tight to each other, and then essentially it's opened up outboard or topsides here, and that allows you room to put the material in, and it's done, it's each one is slightly different, but the idea is, the slope of that angle is enough to accept the material and also keep it from working its way out. So you want a nice tight fit, but you want it open enough that you can drive enough material in there to create that watertight seal.
Nice. So you're going to show us
Yeah,
some in.
so
All right.
let's see, I gotta get my kit here.
Guess what I forgot? I forgot to bring my caulking mallet.
Yeah.
Of course I did.
Yep.
So we'll do the demonstration, and then I'll pick it up later.
This is a nice mallet. It's got a tapered handle that fits so you can deconstruct it, which is handy for keeping in your kit. And to sort of illustrate what I was saying about all the planks on the ship moving, you know, this is a wooden mallet, and these pieces expand and contract as well. So in the summertime when I'm caulking and I put this together, there's about half as much of this taper sitting through the mallet. That's how much things have shrunk down in the wintertime. So it's a good example of how much things move based on their environment. So what we're going to do here, I'll just give you a quick demo. We've got a threading iron, and you can see that's quite a narrow edge there. It's not sharp, but it's quite tight, and that's to help both grab the material and get it down as far as you can. So I'm going to use that to put some tucks in, and I like to use, I got this sort of contraption, but basically you have a pinky saddle, because when I hold the iron, I'm holding it in a way that my pinky, it's between my pinky and my ring finger, and that's how I'm sort of steering it. I got my fingers here, I got my forefinger here is bare so that I can feel the material, but in the wintertime I like having gloves, especially working outside. But so anyways, it's nice to have something that this cotton can kind of bounce around in.
And not get dirty.
And not get dirty. So even a little cardboard box is fine, or I didn't get that far in my prep. But what we're trying to do here is put tucks in. We're not just going to lay this out flat. We're going to put in a series of tucks. And this being so deep, I'm going to have to make some pretty big tucks here. And I'm not trying to set them yet, I'm just sort of placing them. Whoops. But that's essentially what I'm doing, is driving a series of loops in where they're sort of half on each other, and that's going to give them friction against themselves instead of just a straight line. And so that'll help sort of with the movement of the boat. That'll help tighten everything up. So I'll run a little more here. And I'm just kind of starting in the middle for demo, but you would want to start at one end and work your way down. And being right-handed, I work left to right. And so you'd run this for a while in an area that you can sort of handle, and then you come back with a setting iron, and this you can see is quite narrow as well. It's a little bit broader than my threading iron, but this gives me an edge that I can really set this down tight, and that's what's driving it in. You want as tight as you can go without blowing it through. So it depends on the work you're doing. These are, you know, pretty heavy timbers, and it's a tight seam on the inside, so I know I can really wail on those, and it's going to be fine. Where it's more opened up back aft, or where we need to do some feathering, might take a little more of a delicate touch. On a small boat, you don't want to be giving it everything you can, because you can easily blow planks apart with the kind of pressure you can drive this material in with. So you got to get a feel for how much you really want to drive this stuff. If it's not enough, it's not going to be effective, and it's going to fall out. So there is some feel to it. But so that's setting the cotton in, and then on top of that we'd run some Oakum. I'd do the whole thing in cotton first. And then same process with the Oakum. This one is really where having, you know, that bare finger helps you to get a feel for what's coming ahead. You know, when I spin this out, I try to get it as consistent as I can, but it's going to have little lumps and things like that. And so having the touch on it is going to help inform me of how big or small a tuck to make in that situation. But again, putting those loops in, and you're aiming for consistency, and the seams aren't always consistent, but so you got to kind of work your way and feel it out and know how that's going to go. And then I actually have an even fatter iron that you could find something in between these two, but this is probably good for this seam, and that's what I'll use to set this in. And you can, if you take a peek in there, you can see it's a nice, taut, consistent space. And so this will need another layer or two of Oakum on top of that to really finish that off. But that's kind of what we're shooting for.
How many layers do you think we'll end up putting?
It'll be, again, it depends on how thick your Oakum is. That'll be, I'm guessing 3. Yeah. Ideally what you want is the depth of your material is the same as the width of your seam. Gotcha. So you want basically a square void in there when you're set and done for either the seam compound or in this case the TDS to go into. And better to err on the side of a slightly bigger void than a smaller one, because you really want that whatever compound you're using to have enough of a shoulder to grip in there so it doesn't fall out, especially more on the hull planking where again the ship is working and you don't want that putty falling out of there, then you're going to develop leaks over time. So that's the down and dirty on Caulking Homicide.
Awesome, thank you very much.
Productive day today, and a productive week actually. Some of the work took a lot longer than I thought it would, but it's done and moving in the right direction. So, one step closer. Actually, we're able to check off something on our list of 93 things we have to get done before May 2nd. It was originally 77, and the list keeps on growing. So, I guess we're maybe at some stasis now, which is a good thing. Looking forward to actually having an itinerary that we will know that we're going to be doing for this summer. But in the meantime, a lot of work to get done. And catch us next time on the ShipKeeper's Blog.